Are you gonna give me orders?
Now we're moving into the lower bracket for a Terran versus Zerg. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Secret Labs, Shopify, Twitch, and Ting. And don't forget that you guys can still call in to the Ting number down below or post it in chat, wherever it is, to ask your questions. Had a couple of good ones earlier today with Drogo, if you want to go back and check that out. And we always look forward to your questions. So you can still get those in for next weekend, finals weekend. With that said, we do have the game almost ready to go. So let's talk a bit about INnoVation versus Reynor.
Yeah, Drogo's answers were so good, by the way. Especially the answer on how to become a meme lord, where it's like just shamelessly copy everything and just see what works in different games and then apply it to StarCraft. I loved it. I was actually giggling behind my PC. Drogo's so funny. But yeah, let's talk about this best of 5. Obviously, they had a series yesterday. Reynor actually beat INnoVation 3-0 in a different tournament. Historically, it's actually been very close between these two, but before that one, they were pretty much tied in maps. And before we really dive maybe into the head-to-head here between Inno and Reynor and what we can expect, I gotta say that Reynor is having a truly remarkable run through this lower bracket so far, right? Like, he beat Parting in the first round, he beat Zero in the second round, and then yesterday he just completely dominated Clem in a very one-sided series, the most one-sided between them I have seen in a long time. I think that was a bit on Clem as well. Clem was not bringing the A-game we've seen before. But what a run that has been. Like, those are not just like, wow, he won 3 series in a row. Like, no, those are 3 incredibly big names that he already took out.
Some of the biggest of like the current period, right? I mean, Parting, he's been on fires in GSL. Everyone was talking him up. He loses against Reynor. Cyril, do I need to explain that? He beats Cyril. And then, yeah, Clem also just on the tip of everyone's tongue. Maybe playing, maybe too many late night NA EPT cups. But yeah, getting 3-0'd by Reynor. Reynor is absolutely on a tear. And he did recently beat INnoVation 3-0 as well. But I don't think INnoVation gets 3-0'd twice, man. I think we get another game 5 in this series.
That was my prediction as well. I do think it's going to go in favor of the young Italian that's spawning on the top left side of Nightshade. He's, of course, representing Clash. It is Reynor.
And in the bottom right, we have the red Terran. It is INnoVation.
Yay!
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling a 3-2, perhaps either way here, right? Like, I'm with you as well. I don't believe that anybody back-to-back 3-0s INnoVation, unless there's, like, just something suddenly wrong with Inno. He has taken a couple of defeats recently, but Inno has been looking so damn good throughout this year. He's been very exciting to follow. It's amazing to see someone who's been on top of the scene for so long still bring it in 2020. He truly is, for me, undisputably one of the all-time greats, right? Like, if you would ever make a Mount Rushmore of StarCraft, you better put INnoVation's face on it, because otherwise you're just not doing him justice.
Yeah, I love that imagery, absolutely. His face, Bogus's face, man. It's his old name. The truth is that he is probably one of the greats. Like, I think that is actually a truth, not an opinion, because he has done so well over so many different periods and metas. Like, literally through all the expansions, through all the chaos the Korean scene has been in. He was bogus because he was back in Brood War and Pro League, and they swapped over, and he took to StarCraft 2 very, very well. He's been in dangerous positions and easy positions and out and into GSL, but he always seems to bounce back and do well eventually. So I still think he's a contender for this tournament. It's just that Reynor is really, really in good form. And INnoVation. Macro to macro, might have a little bit of maybe problems with just how Reynor plays. I do love that they've been back and forth previously. And I want this to be all bio, all late game, all the time. Enough of the cheeses, because we have had 10 cheeses, basically.
Yeah,
what it feels like.
No, I'm with you on that one as well. I think it's time for a couple of normal macro games. I know some of the fans are like, yeah, we love macro, but if every game is macro, it becomes a bit boring and still too. Well, that hasn't been the case today. It's been very close and exciting series, but we did have our fair amount of short games. I'm down for a couple of longer ones as well. Lambo actually yesterday on this stream said that he thinks Reynor is actually going to win this entire tournament. So despite the fact we started off in lower bracket round 1, Lambo believes that Reynor can go all the way. And if that prediction is correct, I will truly think that's one of the more impressive tournament victories I have seen in a very, very long time. Because it's not like he's had an easy lower bracket so far. And it doesn't stop here. I mean, getting INnoVation, that's pretty much as scary as it gets as well.
Absolutely. Reynor has certainly been bringing the clutch factor. Obviously, he brings the macro and build orders and run buys and all that we know him for, but he's also really bringing in clutch. His innovation is, maybe I had like a smoother run. I don't know if he's going to game 5, for instance, actually take the victory, because that's what I'm hoping it gets to. We do have a 3cc build from INnoVation, so already propelling us into the longer game. If Reynor were to scout this through one way or another, I think he'd also respond with macro, because he's certainly not scouting this fast enough to say, all in. That's really difficult to do nowadays. Zerg, especially where his Overlord is, he doesn't even see that there's a lack of supply depots, right, at the front, or the lack of third base, or the amount of Hellions, or really anything. Is completely in the dark.
Yeah, and Eliza is not, Reynor is also not too big of a fan of like these early roach builds, right? Like I rarely see him do that. Like just build a couple of roaches, run to the other side of the map, try to get some damage done. We know that Reynor loves Zerglings, he loves Banelings, and he loves Zergling run-bys above everything. Now, one thing before we really get into this game is that yesterday in the first game against Clem, Reynor used a pretty unique strategy where he basically made it seem like everything is normal. He got the Spire, he got a couple Munas out early on. This is a lot of links, by the way, that Reynor is producing, and he's already setting up a little hit squad as well. So while I was saying that he doesn't cheese that often early on, let's see what he does with his free supply right now. His 3 Overlords are about to finish. Now, he will go back into droning, but he's already setting up his first run-by. But TLDR, yesterday he opened up with Mudas, and then he went Lurkers on Everdream, and it took a very long time for Clem to scout that. I really wonder if we're going to see that strategy again, because that was pretty damn cool, and I really wonder how it works out in a game where maybe Inno is like a little more in it, right? Doesn't take a lot of damage from Link run-bys. Then I want to see those Lurkers shine.
That would be really cool. I love seeing Lycan Lurkers, which kind of had like a really big surgence when the change happened for them, but then kind of died off in this matchup back at the Home Spray Cup offline one. But love seeing them in any matchup. Might see it in a super late game, which we're still headed to, by the way. Like Reynor, I think he's gotten like enough information not to be scared of an immediate attack, that's for sure, even though it's been a little bit in the dark. He saw only 2 Hellions on the front and 2 Hellions on the defense. Nothing else has happened except the Vikings shooing away some units, right? For his lack of scouting with the Overlord and as tricky as INnoVation was kind of being, nice catch here, there were still some tells that this was going to be like just pure macro. And then Reynor is get the 4th base up, yeah, exactly, get the drone count up, and is prioritizing the Baneling speed, because there will eventually be a push.
Yeah, I love how Reynor was like, I don't think I really want to commit here, but then he saw these mules being dropped, and he's like, I would like to get at least one of them, right? It's a very nice little catch in the middle of the map, because that makes it a lot easier for Reynor to spread that creep towards the center. And obviously we've seen a lot of TVZs on this map lately. We know that the majority of the action takes place in the center. Those tanks on the high ground, they can be very hard to deal with. Zerg is not allowed to take any bad fights. Creep is more important perhaps on this map than it is on any other. But so far, I think so good. Getting that little catch of the Hellions and the Reapers gives Reynor that little bit of extra creep that could come in very handy here on Nightshade.
For INnoVation, I mean, sometimes those are just for scouting, making sure that Reynor isn't doing anything like building a lot of Lings or, of course, building Roaches. So the sacrifice, as long as it didn't push his 3rd CC off, might have been okay for him. How much do they really kill? Create tumors. This one's even... I mean, it will go down, but it still took a little while. He is so much more about the follow-up push. So not this drop necessarily. I mean, hey, if that does damage, great. But the follow-up push being as powerful as it can possibly be. Big Ling Rhyme into the 3rd base as the 16 Marines are off somewhere else. A tank trying to defend is helping. A 2nd tank about to pop out, but I'm worried about the SCVs at this point. The friendly fire was pretty
That wasn't
severe.
all that bad. I gotta say, it's impressive. We only lost 4 SCVs there. And Reynor losing that many Lings on the other side of the map had no idea that this double drop was heading towards his main, because of that Viking that INnoVation built earlier. The spawning pool is gonna go down here. At least I thought it would. And it should still go down, right? Oh, wow. And Reynor even builds a 2nd pool already. He cancels it. Okay, I wouldn't have minded to see him even let that finish up, because he's quite rich. He's got a lot of minerals, and that pool is so low in HP right now that I feel like it's a matter of time before it does go down.
I guess, to be fair, it very rarely happens, right? The drop into the main base, it's not out clearing creep. That's one of the downsides. So for it to go back in, as opposed to maybe supporting the push that would eventually happen, maybe it just doesn't happen often enough for him to worry about it. He has Lings now on the main base, and maybe a transfuse from some of those queens that have good energy. And I don't think we have to be wary of him losing out in Ling production anytime soon. He's already moving on to Hydralisks. That's fire, but Hydralisk, Infestation Pit, he is going to boost back into the main, but I think as soon as he sees the Lings...
There's a new Overlord as well that Viking should get to work. I love the idea of, like that's kind of an old school thing, right? The pulled Viking that we always used to talk about. It's like, okay, gets a Viking out, cleans the Overlords, and then the drop in the main base. So smart. We didn't really see it that much anymore because it felt that Zerg players started picking up on it. But that was a cool little move to at least get something going. But I gotta say, Reynor's response was excellent. I thought he was going to be in a bit of trouble because he just lost a lot of Zerglings on the other side of the map. But he actually handled it very well with only, I believe, a single drone going down in the end. I mean, that's basically nothing.
Yeah, he wasn't like so greedy. He had Lings to spare to send back home as he was only on like 65 drones. He wasn't already up to 85 5 bases, and just totally with only 30 Lings to spare. Damn. But he is now to 91 drones. He's going to a hive. He does go into the lurker den, which I am very excited to see. And INnoVation is going to have to accommodate. The pacing right now is him just dropping and clearing up creep. Nothing too major. Never did a tank push despite getting a couple of them, and now moving on to Widow Mines. But he's going to have to kind of readjust how he wants to play this game, I think, if he sees that it is, in fact, lurkers.
Good job there by Reynor splitting off a couple of these Lings, because I feel there was potential for a massive shot, because there were so many Lings and Banes right on top of each other. The first lurkers already on the way, and I'm with you. I find it very exciting. I think some of these fights between bio and lurkers are really cool, and they're kind of hard to cast as well, right? Because you're like, yeah, the lurkers do a lot of damage. That's kind of how it goes most of the time. Really curious to see how this turns out. Now, obviously, these are the moments that matter the most. There isn't that much creep here. There are a couple of Widow Mines in the mix as well. Reynor has to be very careful about how he wants to engage this. And the mines have not fired yet, so far so good for Inno. But here are these lurkers that are going to try to keep this space safe. A scan goes down, INnoVation goes forward. There's no way he gets all four though.
Oh. There was an amazing Widow Mine shot to the right side. But just not enough. I mean, that was only a portion of his army, as a lot of his back home defending against run-bys, and of course still that drop to the top left, comes back in. Could maybe have gone for the spawning pool, but actually Reynor feels so confident. He's going to start Arjuno Glance and lose it anyways. Oh my god! Oh, that barely went down. That last Marine, what a hero. I didn't think that was going to go down. I got to be honest, Roddy. You brought it up and I was like, probably not. But it
goes
down.
These spawning pools.
Yeah. It gets delays Digital Glance, which Reynor absolutely wanted to start immediately there.
The good news is that Reynor is pretty much maxed out, and he can also build Hydras right now, right? This is not one of these moments where Lynx is like the only thing he can build, and this is important. There's a big fight happening on the right top side as well, as a Baneling, Widow Mine just gets a juicy connection with a lot of Banes. A lot of Bio survives it too. Reynor is actually getting busy on the other side of the map, which means he's, I want to say, almost giving up this hatchery on the top side, but the Bio has gone down. What can he have done with these lurks here? This feels like a really weird attack for Reynor, right?
This is super aggressive. There's not a whole lot protecting these lurkers, and while their damage is pretty good, oh my god, the friendly fire! Oh, the lurker spawns plus the friendly fire. My god, that actually might be good enough now. Yeah, I thought the lurkers would be concaved on, they'd be taken out, but they do have their range upgrade. Now they have their speed burrow, and those Widow Mines did not help. They sucked.
No, Trader Mines, if I've ever seen some. There was another big Widow Mine hit on the top side of the map. Is now just kind of sacrificing his Viking. Those Widow Mines did get cleaned up at the cost of like quite a few Zerglings. What a fight that was, right? Like, you just don't see that very often. Those lurker shots going into the Marauders, you're like, oh, that's good damage. And then the Widow Mines just blowing like 4 or 5 Marauders into pieces. It also meant that those lurkers would survive. INnoVation is going to try to buy some time with Liberators and Widow Mines. Reynor is being so aggressive. Like, I know that he's aggressive. It's Reynor, but this feels crazy even for Reynor.
Yeah, I'm with you there. The lurker count is getting to a point where I think that if he is aggressive, he can probably keep a position. He's got more speed units. Very large.
Yep.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, though.
This is actually a pretty big one. And okay, INnoVation did raise the depots into the main base. That's very nice. But these Lings are feisty. They've got good upgrades. They do not have Adrenal Glands yet. But other than that, they are definitely being annoying. Well done by Reynor.
I'm gonna save this. 8765. Oh my god, the repair on 10-9-8765. Still gonna lose it.
That SCV. That SCV looked at it, it's like, The little SCV that could, but in the end couldn't.
Yeah. I mean, if those were Arjuno Glands, that's absolutely dead. But that's a good point. I think he just kind of forgot to restart it after having rebuilt his spawning pool. He is going to finish up 3-3 upgrades and start working on the missiles to help out those lurkers. But the lurkers are just I mean, as siege units, they're already powerful enough. You know, like tanks, they don't necessarily need the +1, even though it's nice to have. Corrupt is available for the Liberators that we're starting to accumulate, and even a really nice Parasitic Bomb. I mean, maybe the Planetary holds here, but or maybe INnoVation just taps out. GG.
Man, Reynor is just on fire. He plays so hyper-aggressive. Like, we know that Reynor loves to fight. We know that he doesn't like boring games, doesn't really sit back, goes for openings and Ling run-bys, main Ling run-bys. But this felt kind of a crazy pace, even for Reynor, especially with lurkers, right? Like, high-attack units. He's just so deep off creep. But he is creating chaos, and he's getting the better of INnoVation here in this first game. I mean, I don't think this really made the difference, but Inno never even started +3 armor, by the way. He had +3 attack, but only +2 armor. Maybe just kind of forgot about it. The upgrades were kind of desynced all game long. But what a performance by Reynor here in the first game. He looked damn good, damn confident in every stage of the game, and I was never truly worried for him.
Yeah, I think that's something that we can really focus on, is that we're never worried for Reynor. I mean, INnoVation also got his 7 to 9 minutes of just like not having to worry about very much, besides that Ling run by. But it just felt like it was so much better for Reynor as he got all of his production, all of his technology, all of his creep spread, never having to worry about that very common difficult spot to hold on that map. I mean, we talk about that spot a lot because it is difficult to hold, and INnoVation's entire game plan seemed to be just on him macroing, not pushing, not taking advantage of that. And while, you know, we know that INnoVation's a great macro and he can play a great late game, maybe he's a bit influenced by TY's recent game on Nightshade, that just felt like it was too passive. By the time he was actually kind of pushing with those drops, it was already like, Reynor can sacrifice a base.
Do you also just think that maybe, you know, without scouting Aspire was just like, yeah, this is definitely going to be Muda play, even though Muda play is not like ultra common on Nightshade, you do see it. But it felt that this would have been a much better game for tanks than it was for Widowmines, no?
I think so. I mean, usually you see, if as soon as they realize that it's not Spire, that it is either Hydralisks, well, if they see it's Hydralisk, I should say, then yeah, they go into tanks. I mean, if it's just pure lane Baneling, then Widowmine is fine as well. But I do think he was caught off guard by the pacing of the game, no mutas, no super big mid-game attack from him, and then that the lurkers show themselves. And usually you have time to accommodate, but because Reynor was playing like he did, we thought overly aggressive, but it turns out perfectly aggressive. INnoVation maybe didn't have time to readjust his brain to it.
And I mean, then again, this is something that I do often say when it's like, when I see a Zerg at like 90 plus drones, I'm like, all right, then you better be forcing fights, then you better be trading, right? Otherwise your army is not going to be big enough. So Reynor was just like, you know what? I'm rich. I can do it. Let's fight all the time. We'll see how these fights actually play out. Well, it turned out they played out fantastic. He's up 1-0 on the left top side, representing Clash. It is Reynor.
In the bottom right, as the red Terran, we have INnoVation going for the macro game and promptly getting beat by Reynor's macro.
Gotta say, pretty wild first game. Like, I was hoping for fireworks. We got fireworks with a lot of good Widowmine hits. Also some friendly fire here and there. But that was quite the first game to kick this best of 5 off. Reynor is scouting for proxy barracks. I do sometimes get a little bit nervous, you know, if a Terran goes down 0-1 in a relatively one-sided affair, and I'm like, oh no, please don't proxy barracks in game 2. And I know this strategy has a very high win record in tournaments, but I just prefer normal games. And unfortunately for us, INnoVation is not throwing in the towel yet, and he's just gonna try to macro one more time. At least that's what it looks like right now.
I would be so... I don't want him to do a 3cc though again. It's not that a 3cc is bad, you know, assuming you get away with it, but it's just that I would have thought it would have done something more, you know, like the 3cc super macro, only a little bit of damage taken with the run by. I got this amazing push, and it's going to be so difficult to hold. I never saw a push that was so difficult to hold. I saw a push that threatened a spawning pool and, you know, a 4th base or a 5th base rather, but nothing that ever really was able to stick, and Reynor was the one that was on the defensive. That basically never happened despite both of them macroing as much as they did.
Yeah. I think you make a very valid point there, especially when the drone count is that insanely high, right? When you're talking about 90 plus drones, it always feels that instead of trying to create little fights everywhere, it would be a lot better for Terran to just focus on one big fight, because they should have more army supply, they should have more to work with, and obviously Zerg's gonna have a little less than they normally do, but if you're forcing 3 or 4 fights at a time, well, that's obviously, then it doesn't really feel like your army supply is smaller, right? Because it all just depends on how you're distributing the forces that you're working with. So I like that point that you bring up.
It's very possible that INnoVation had a plan for an attack, but then just was so offset by what he scouted or how little he was doing with the drops that he decided not to do it. But even from the get-go, with the medevacs in the main base as opposed to clearing up creep, I was like, oh, okay, so his plan is to play super long game, which, again, can work out. I just think he was really even more so thrown off by the aggression that Reynor brought. INnoVation apparently says, you know what? Second time, gonna try it again, gonna fix all the mistakes I made. Third CC it is.
You know what, Zombie Grub, you don't want to see a third CC? Bam, here you go. 3 minutes. What are you going to do about it? Well, we're not going to do anything about it, you know, we can't. We have no choice. We're just going to see how it plays out. I do think it's important that he keeps those Hellions alive a little bit longer. I do love that he kept 2 Hellions at home, because Reynor was clearly looking for a very early run by, right? When he was setting up those 12 Voicel Zerglings, and he was checking the natural twice to see if the Hellions left. Obviously, that was good by Inno. But then don't lose the Hellions in the center of the map, because even if you don't get any drone kills, even if you're not that successful in pushing back the creep, it's still so nice to keep them alive. And maybe later they can morph into Hellbats, right? And they can soak up a couple of Banelings, or if the Banelings are gone, they can do a fantastic job against Zerglings. It always feels like Terran loses some momentum if they lose 2 or even 4 Hellions rather carelessly.
Never underestimate retention, right? Like suddenly those 4 Hellbats or 6 Hellbats are exactly what makes or breaks a push. So I'm with you. There was no reason to lose them for sure. They were just not being paid attention to. It is going to be up to 6 Hellions this time though, instead of just the 4, which is really the greediest thing you can do. I mean, maybe someone like Marine King has gone for 2 Hellions, but 6 Hellions is very safe. You might even see him be a little more aggressive on top of Reynor with these, but he will always have to keep in mind the run-by potential.
Obviously, a good scout there by Reynor with his speedy overlords. He knows already that INnoVation did open up with 3 command centers again, so it's awfully similar to game 1. Indeed, a little different when it comes to the Hellion count. But yeah, if you're opening up 3 CCs, you rarely see a Terran player also just dive into the natural and then try to kill 10 drones, right? Because at that point, then you really have very little at home. So it would make a lot more sense for Inno to be a little safer. And obviously that means that for Reynor, it's happy drone day. He's already going up to 56 drones. Like, we're not even 5 minutes into the game. 5 minutes into the game, and he's about to be up to 60 workers. That's pretty insane.
Yeah. I do think the Hellion should be doing things like this, but I think they have to be very careful about running back, you know, to your point. Like, these are all these units are right now, so you gotta be careful. You want to continue scaring Reynor because he just got a full scout. Whatever he wasn't able to do last game because he was a little unsure, he can now do it this game. So if he wants to instead go for faster double upgrades or faster 4th base, that is his prerogative, which is kind of what he's doing here. Not double upgrades, though, as he misses his +1 melee. I'm pretty sure he wanted that.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll start it soon. I think he just wanted a Baning Nest as well, just in case something very weird happens, but he should really start that any moment now, Reynor.
He should have double upgrade advantages over his opponent, choosing this build, knowing that if there is going to be an attack, because sometimes there can be still pretty swift 2 tank pushes off this build, off the 3 CC. I mean, you would have the double upgrades, you'd have the positioning. You don't necessarily need as difficult hooks, but you're supposed to have double upgrades over your opponent. Yep. Double.
Aye. I mean, that's something that Reynor is going to be very frustrated about by the time he finds out only a single Evolution Chamber is wiggling. There we go, fires up +1. It's obviously quite a bit later than he would have liked. And the most annoying thing now is that it's so hard to keep track of your upgrades throughout the game, right? And this is kind of what INnoVation had in the previous game, where he started +2 attack, but he didn't start +2 armor. And then the upgrades were desynced. And then you can also obviously see that he never ended up with +3 armor. Now, I really don't think that was like game breaking or that really decided the outcome of that game. But this is going to be annoying for Reynor because now he can never fire up the upgrades at the same time.
So INnoVation had gotten to this point last game, and I thought he was going to still do his push with his tanks, but you know, he didn't. He ended up doing a drop instead. I would still really like to see the push this game, and considering how aggressive his Hellions have been on creep spread, actually using scans to deplete those top ones, for instance, I would really like to see the push. But I think he also has to be so mindful of how Reynor plays. He just feels like he has to keep his tanks at home, which, hey, if he had gone out for the push, look what would have happened.
Yeah, 1 tank does go down, but Reynor obviously loses quite a few Zerglings in the process, so I don't really think that was all that bad. Reynor is on the money when it comes to starting +2. He's got a couple of Banes as well. Baning speed is quite close to finishing up. So we're gonna see how this one plays out. INnoVation has been very careful. I like how he's working on this nice little depot wall as well, but the Baneling's already done. Does the Viking spot that? The answer is no. INnoVation has no idea about it. That's a dropper ward as well, by the way. That's kind of cool. I really like where this is going. We also have a fight unfolding in the center of the map as the Hellbats were already frying a couple of Zerglings. This is about to get wild. There is a Baneling run by in the third. There is a Baneling drop in the main base, and INnoVation is pushing. What is happening, Jess?
That is awkward timing. It's not Lingra by, it's Baneling drops, but they still did a lot of damage. But his push might still be able to do some damage of its own. He's got to be careful here and not actually go on a creep as much as he thinks he has to. I mean, it's just not going to work out. The farther you go on a creep here, the more urgent you are as the Terran. So he does finally siege up his tanks after clearing up the creep spread. But that third base is just simply not going to mine. Everything on the front line here is all that INnoVation is going to have. He has to reinforce his natural and just hold up there.
Oh my god, Inno is down already like almost 30 workers at this point. He needs to get so much damage done. He does have a nice little setup, but can he keep the Marines alive? And Reynor is flanking as well. He's bringing back a couple of Zerglings, and that will allow these Banelings to get some decent connections. And even though Reynor is retreating for now, that's because he knows it's all good. He took care of the scariest units there. He's no longer under pressure. He's even expanding again in the left bottom side. He's so confident. He starts up Hive during all of this, and our INnoVation is in trouble, Jess.
I think this is exactly the example of why INnoVation played the game he did last game. You know, like I said, it's definitely a worry, but I don't know if it's a worry enough that you just never push. Well, he pushed here, and he immediately got, kind of killed for it. I mean, losing that many SCVs and not grabbing a base of your opponent. Yeah, you push back the creep, but if you have to pull all the way back home, that creep's going to be back out in the middle of the map before you get to say anything about it. Or, alternatively, Ultras will be out, and that's a bit of a timer. Even Vipers for some abducts in these tanks is going to be really brutal for INnoVation.
I do want to point out, by the way, that Reynor did completely forget +2. And this is kind of what I mentioned before, right? His upgrades are distinct. It's really annoying to keep track of that. And right when I say it, he starts it. It's almost scary, just the second time. But now +2 armor is already done, so you can see that he's been really late on that. But does that even matter when you have this many Zerg units? INnoVation is trying to do whatever he can to guide away from these Banes. But he once again loses the tanks. And look at the bank that Reynor is working with as well, right? Reynor is so rich. Reynor's got so many bases, and on top of that, he's got Hive tech. I mean, do you even need +2 melee at that point?
Man, maybe not. You know, the supplies of the army don't look that bad, I suppose, but consider that a lot of times Zerg players are even down 20 army supply and still manage to hold, and that a lot of supply of INnoVation are in medevacs, which aren't necessarily helpful against those Banelings. Yeah, it's actually not that good. And Reynor's about to have those Vipers for the Blinding Clouds on this choke, especially going to be working against Marines and tanks. Another huge run by, ensuring INnoVation is all in on 3 bases. And worst comes to worst, Reynor could sacrifice this base if he felt the need to.
Yeah, then he does lose his Baneling nest though, right? So it's very important that he rebuilds that one. A lot of SVs are going to go down on the other side of the map, as we can see. At this point, it's all about this fight. INnoVation doesn't just need like a victory here. He needs to completely smash the army of Reynor and keep almost all of his Marines alive. It seems impossible. This time, INnoVation is anticipating the Ling attack from the right side, so he gets a good initial tray, but now Blinding Clouds will land on his tanks as well. Does a good job in sniping Banelings though. Inno getting the most out of that. But can he really continue pushing?
It was a little bit awkward from Reynor. You know, his right side was taken care of, and then the Vipers didn't actually get on the action fast enough, but he just took out the other tank. We're down to just pure Marine, and now Reynor, the thing he has to do is make sure he always has Banelings in reserve. If he ever runs out of Banelings, he could be in trouble, but if the Banelings kill every last Marine, well, that works as well. As the Parasitic Bomb taking down the medevacs, where the reinforcements here for Reynor, turns out he doesn't really need it. The Hydras are going to be enough with the Queen, and INnoVation scans both bases to say, am I really screwed? Yeah, you are, INnoVation.
I almost expected a question mark at this point, you know, and Inno stays a little longer in the game than I feel like he normally would. I'm like, is he going to meme? Is he going to drop a question mark? Reynor is looking amazing. There's no other way to put it, right? Like this run that he's been having in the lower bracket so far. Parting pushed him to the limit in the first round. Sero had a 2-0 lead, but this kid just refuses to back down. He will never go down without a fight. He turned that series around. Yesterday, he looked on fire, and he had the cleanest victory over Clem that he's had in a very long time. And today he's just continuing. He's now 5-0 in the last 5 games. Well, you can even say the last 8 games if you include INnoVation and Clem. Kid is playing fantastic. This is the Reynor that people got so hyped about in 2019. A lot of people said 2020 is going to be the year of Reynor. He had a relatively slow start to 2020. I think that's fair to say, right? He suddenly started dropping more series than he did before. But he's looking good in this lower bracket. Jeez.
He's looking very good. I wonder how much of this series is actually just INnoVation being scared because they played just like 24 hours ago. As it really does kind of feel like INnoVation's playing scared. I don't want to look too much into it because I don't know. I don't talk to the guy. But just the first game, never really doing a push. And then the second game saying, okay, I have to try something. And then immediately getting slapped for it. Immediately getting the Reynor run by effect. And just having to all in more than he was comfortable with. Like, that's scary stuff to go up against.
Reynor did have that drop a lot, of course, but it weren't the banelings that were dropped in the main that did the damage, right? It were the banelings that were just morphing on the high ground that just rolled past those depots. And then I do think it's fair to ask ourselves, like, if you're building like 5 depots there, INnoVation, wouldn't you want to get like that 6th depot as well, so it's actually a wall? Like, it felt that would have eased him up a little bit because he lost 14 SCVs against like the 4 banelings that just rolled into that mineral line. And the Banes in the main, they only killed like 3 SCVs, I believe, in total. So it really would have helped INnoVation if he would have completed that wall. Then maybe he would have felt a little less pressure to get that over eager with his push. But I don't even think he really I don't even think like he truly overstepped his boundaries. I think it was more like, well, I'm economically behind and I'm trying to get the best out of this, but Reynor obviously had units in the right place at the right time. And it just once again felt that Reynor wasn't in any real trouble. And that's insane because normally these games are really close. Reynor Clem, Reynor Inno. It's like, oh, does he have enough? And then the last banelings, more of banelings connect. Like, I don't think INnoVation's micro is something is poor. It's just that Reynor is on point. Like, he's playing incredibly well.
Yeah. I think it's also just very scary when it seems like the mind, like not the mind game, the game presence, game mindfulness, whatever you want to call it. The point is the fact that he pushed and immediately as he was pushing, the banelings rolled in. It's just the game sense. There we go. Like, that is scary to play against. Like, you're like, oh, I dealt with the first one fine. My tank's in position. That's great. But next game, not so much. We're not going to have a macro game here. One SCV already being sent out in the bottom left. On Eternal Empire, we do have the Blue Zerg, Reynor.
And in the right top side, I kind of expected this the previous game, but he was like, nah, I'll try one more time. But at this point, he's had enough. Let's see if this strategy with the high win percentage in tournaments can get the job done one more time. It is INnoVation. All
right, so I was just trying to describe game sense for the Baneling attack. How was his game sense versus the 2 racks? I don't know. It seems pretty good. He goes for the pool first, and his Overlord is headed in the correct direction unless he changes it.
Well, no, he actually changes it towards it was actually heading past the Zelnaga, I thought. But then he actually went towards the left top side. Reynor has been drone scouting in the previous games as well. That was all for nothing. No! He just turned it around like a split second before he would see it. It was... Oh my god, he was the second away from scouting these barracks, and he changed direction on the Overlord.
Oh no, that's he checked the very left of the mineral patches, right? Sometimes you do see the barracks there, but that is too bad. How often do we see that Overlord just change at the last second? That is brutal. And now also there's no second Overlord to even see the bunkers preparing in the natural. But Reynor, he didn't just go for the spawning pool just in case and then said, oh, I don't need it. He is still building 6 links. You know, like that still gives me some hope here is they're going to go into the natural. They're going to see the bunkers and they're going to be able to jump on top of the very few Marines we start off with.
Yep, and it's still gasless, of course, for INnoVation, so it's safe to say that he really wants to commit here. Reynor spots the SCV, does not see the Marines yet. He might be a little suspicious about it. At this point, he's going to see a second SCV, and he knows immediately what is up. He's not going to take a bad fight too far away. He's like, all right, more links. Let's get my queens going. And this should normally be a defense. Drones are going to come up as well, just to help out even more. Reynor just wants to make sure that these bunkers don't get done too quickly.
Oh, well, that's a bit of a mistake there for the Overlord to be where it is.
Yep.
That's a little awkward. He does supply block him, but he was already building 6 lings and a queen, and yeah, he can build spine crawlers instead. So I'm still feeling pretty good about this. The bunker's not even close to the hatchery, remember? So that's, well, that one is, but the one that's finishing isn't. So he has some time to build up his army before he has to pull the trigger. But he is taking out the reinforcements.
It seems like he's okay with that first bunker going up, and now those Marines will hop into the bunker. I'm starting to get a tiny bit worried here. There's still a lot of SCVs as well that could potentially repair this bunker. Reynor is losing a couple of drones. He's lost a lot of links. I can't believe that queen survived, but I gotta say, I love these links that are picking up the reinforcements.
Oh, I absolutely love these links, for sure. The pull on that bunker was a little bit awkward. You know, he really didn't have to. I mean, he had to make sure this bunker didn't get up, but with his queen getting as low as it did, he had to wait for the one from the main base to come down. His spine crawler's done. The Lings are also done stopping reinforcements, but the Spine Crawler finished. There's no more bunkers to hit the hatchery anymore.
Yeah, it's starting to get pretty dicey, right? Because even if he gets this bunker, then the Marines can still hop into the other bunker. More Marines going to show up. Reynor probably wants to go for it real soon. With 2 Queens, the Spine, and all the Zerglings that he has. I don't think there's a lot of SCVs left here right now. It's only a single SCV. I think the Zergling count should be high enough. Reynor is getting pretty close with his Queens. At this point, I mean, look at the HP on these Marines, right? That just shouldn't be enough. The Lings are going to go forward. The first bunker will fall very quickly. The other Marines kind of get surrounded as well. The Marine count is dwindling. The Spine Crawler goes further forward. This bunker is going to go down as well on INnoVation. I mean, he does have a worker lead after all of this, but it's obviously 2 base against 1.
Reynor has an Overlord seeing that there's no factory on the way. He knows if he just holds, he should be good. He does lose both Queens, though, if they were already very weak and he'd run out of Lings. But the drones get a couple of those last punches in and take out the Marines. The Spine Crawler available and 6 more Lings. I do think he'll hold, but this does maybe open up INnoVation to getting a command center.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Reynor's going to be able to economically recover, but I gotta say, in those final moments of all of this, getting both the Queens and then getting 2 more drones, while Reynor actually for quite some time was already at a very low drone count after that first pool didn't really work out. I feel like we've seen very weird games of INnoVation where he would get like a factory and then he would just go for a 1-base stim all in. That's not going to happen. This is weird. Like, I want to say that I still like it for Reynor, but his economy is actually pretty bad. And losing both Queens, I felt that was pretty disastrous.
He really is not supposed to lose those Queens, that's for sure. Injects and creep spread should be going right now. Further defense in case there was something should be easy. But that said, like, he does know there's nothing to defend against anymore. All the Marines have been pulled back to the main base. There was no factory, so there's not even a potential for a Hellion run by. And Reynor can, once he gets his 3rd base up especially, really just pump out those drones. And his Overlord could even dip in and maybe see the 3rd CC. You know, despite the number of Marines, it's actually pretty much on the edge there, and that would also be very good news for Reynor.
It just feels like now we've got a game on our hands, and I almost felt that this shouldn't have been a game anymore, right? It felt that Reynor really had all the tools. Wow, it's double factory, by the way. Look at that.
Oh, is he going to follow up Blue Flame Hellbats?
Why is he building the other one?
In the base. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm blind, sorry. I thought I was the barracks.
No worries.
Yeah.
So it's really, I was saying, the Overlord might be able to scout the presence of the 3rd CC just because it's on the ledge there. It should never get far enough to see a 2nd factory. There are way too many Marines. So I like this because this also gives him the opportunity to have a mid-game attack that is deadly. You know, if we're talking about a tank push or 16 Marine drop, like that's so far off. But Hellions, Blue Flame Hellions, like they can still win a game or do massive damage, but sooner than those things I listed. So this, I really like this. Plus, we'd be able to defend against Ling Run Buys.
And on top of that, Reynor is not exactly the Zerg to be sitting there on 17 roaches, right? Like, that's just not really something he does. Reynor forces a fight here and actually gets quite a few of these Marines. The mules are going to show up as well. Not exactly sure why that happened. That was pretty decent for Reynor, getting 4 SCVs, where I really don't think he was supposed to be getting those. Does mean he obviously ends up losing these Zerglings. Did not really see much with these Lings. Saw 1 Hellion, but that's obviously not weird or something. Man, I can't believe that the game actually feels somewhat close right now. It really feels like it shouldn't have gotten to this point.
Well, there was actually 2 big things that Reynor kind of misstepped on. I mean, attacking that 1 bunker the first time was a bit awkward, and then the second time, he didn't really clean it up as flawlessly as we would have expected, losing his Queen. So it doesn't happen often that the 3 racks, you know, and no factory already being built at home type thing. It doesn't happen too often. This goes into a macro game, but this is certainly going to... Okay, that's on a wall.
I mean, it's better to find out now than later, so...
Yeah, I suppose.
It's double armory, by the way, as well for INnoVation, so it's not just like, oh, he's going for a couple of Blue Flame Hellions. Nope, he's going all the way.
Yeah, but I'm actually worried that this Blue Flame Hellion attack will win. You know, if Reynor had Banelings already made, that's a little bit helpful, but more importantly, if he had Roaches, then I'm like, oh, you know, he defends and then he drones and we got ourselves a really cool game, but with only Lings, like, INnoVation may be able to win with this.
We do still have that Spine Crawler. There's a spike.
That's true. That's true. And at least a couple of
Oh,
queens
and now at
help
least
out.
he gets the heads up. The Hellions just shot at that hatchery, so he saw it was Blue Flame. 10 more links go down immediately. Reynor, you also need to get like a Baneling nest, right? Or maybe he just feels like that's going to be too late. Some extra queens then. Can he keep this Spine live? Because the Spine is really going to push out a lot of damage. INnoVation knows that as well. Is there a Transfuse available? It seems like the answer is no, but a couple of Hellbats have already gone down.
Yeah, this is not too bad. The queens were in place. The Spinecrawler being there did also help just kind of take shots. 4 more Hellions and more Hellions if you wanted to are coming along here. Still no Roachborn, still no Baneling Nest. I think that maybe a couple, yeah, exactly. Either a couple Hellions or a couple Hellbats on top of the drone count, and Reynor is too far down in economy to play up this game. And then we finally have it happening. While the rest of the Hellbats are cleaned up, Reynor's drones, they all got barbecued.
Reynor is actually counterattacking during all of this on the other side of the map as well with Zerglings. I can't believe that you would send links to the other side of the map and you see that many Hellions and Hellbats in your face. But hey, maybe it was a somewhat decent cause. He got 3 SCVs. But I think that those links would have been very useful near that mineral line as well, protecting those drones.
They would have bought some time. Maybe Reynor can pull the drones away if they're there. I'm with you. The 11 drones might not seem like such a large number. I mean, it could have been worse. If the Hellions are in every single base, that's much worse. But this is still putting him at even with INnoVation, and that's not good. We always have to account for mules and how now INnoVation is going to be safe on 3 bases because he has Blue Flame Hellions to defend against these run-bys.
Do you think that Reynor is 100% sure that he's playing against Mac? Because he
I think so.
Okay.
I understand what you're asking.
Yeah.
No, Roachborn, going to Ling Baneling Muta against it, that is something that I would say was dangerous to play with, but you don't see this many Hellions and not actually assume that.
Right. Well, these Hellions are going to get in a really good spot, and it's still just Zergling, so just when Reynor was able to replace quite a few of the drones that he lost before, he's going to end up losing 10 more. Hellions get out of there as well. This actually kind of feels like a game where Reynor doesn't really get anything going. And it all started, of course, with that 3 Rex opening against the pool first. It was supposed to be good for Reynor. It didn't turn out very good. We do have that Speedy Overseer in the main base now, so Reynor will finally get the confirmation that he is indeed playing against Mac if he wasn't 1000% sure yet. Well, these Mutas are going to need to get some phenomenal fights and also some economic damage, preferably, because he's actually down in workers.
Yeah, to your question's credit, man, like it does sometimes happen where you make more Hellions past the Hellbat attack, but just with the sheer amount he remade, that would have been a very tough call for Reynor to say, it's still bio. Of course, now he knows, and he also knows that it's Cyclone mech, so these mutas are having less of a chance to actually do some serious damage. He's trying to make these lings the best they can be against Blue Flame Hellbats, but it's really more about the queens tanking and the lings just barely providing enough time for the mutas to pop out.
I gotta say, Reynor handled that really well. I feel like it would have been so easy to attack move and lose all your links. I think the link movement against the Blue Flame Hellions and Hellbats has been very good. Reynor did manage to go up to 73 drones as a few more factories go down. And we may still seem like we have a game here in the end. A couple of queens obviously went down, but Reynor still has 4 queens, so that is not that disastrous. Now, obviously, perhaps worse news for Reynor is that the first stores are already on the way, and it's 3 at a time, by the way, talking about an investment.
He already has so many Cyclones, too. The mutas really, they're not even getting a start, Missile turrets would defend against this many mutas as well, but the Cyclones especially, you would at least have hoped to push the 4th CC off a little bit. Nah, it comes down pretty quickly. Reynor, at one point, right, he did say that Ling Baneling Muta can work against this mech style.
Yeah.
And it didn't, to be fair, but he has some faith in it. There's supposed to be a little bit more of a snowball, a little bit more of like these mutas got 10 SCVs, they delayed the command center, and so far nothing's happening. INnoVation is macroing getting to a higher supply faster than his third opponent.
Yep, and that's obviously not something you see super often when the Terran is actually the one playing mech against Muta Ling Bane. Maybe Stu has inspired Reynor, right? Because Stu has actually been the one playing like this against mech a couple of times, and he was able to pull off a couple of really cool victories. That we do have those 10 SCVs that you wished for before. I'm with you though, like it doesn't feel like a good spot at all, and unit-wise it also feels that INnoVation is heading towards a better place than Reynor as these mutas kind of get flanked as well. There are Cyclones everywhere, there are Thors coming in on the right side. Reynor is ending up losing a lot of his mutas here.
I'm really scared that INnoVation will feel so comfortable on his composition, and again, he's going to max out faster, that he'll just push before Reynor's really prepared, because Reynor's trying to put all the pressure on INnoVation so he can build up his economy, build up his army. He's even finding the army here off creep. He's going to go for the attack, I guess, because now it's kind of like...
No,
he's screwed anyways. It was not it, no. Being in the middle of the map was also kind of just a questionable start, right?
I mean, the Mutas are going to come back home. I think it feels that Reynor thought that the Cyclones were still guarding those Mutas in the left top side, but that wasn't the case at all. And it means that Reynor is now under a lot of pressure as he just went up to 95 drones. I mean, that's cool and all, but do you actually have enough units to defend there? It seems like the answer is no. So many Cyclones survive. GG gets called. Reynor finally ends up dropping a map, and INnoVation keeps his hopes and dreams alive. It did start off with a 3-Rex.
Never see that strategy lose.
It's actually so memey, right? Because even when it doesn't end the game, it's like it still makes them win. It's actually a proper meme.
It's kind of amazing. But Reynor did make, I think, 2 really big mistakes. Attacking into that bunker when I think he didn't have to, so losing out there on more drones, and then losing the queens like he did on the last attack. Because the idea is if you've already got a handle on the 3 racks, then you just clean it up with a snap. And you go on your merry way while they're panicking. But it lasted a long time. It actually got kills. I think Reynor is going to be kind of disappointed in that one. You know, like the last 3 minutes of that game, kind of sucked. But more so losing to the 3 racks.
Yeah.
Not just obliterating it because he probably anticipated it. That's going to be more disappointing.
With the opening, like obviously having a couple of links out on the map, picking up reinforcements is really cool. But I think that INnoVation handled that really well. Like I think he ended up losing 1 Marine early on, but then he's like, all right, I'm just going to bank up Marines near my barracks. And that did allow that first bunker to even finish, right? Because at first I wasn't even sure if that first bunker was ever going to go up. It felt like the link count was so high. We're going to have a queen participate in the fight as well. Drones were being pulled. I was like, okay, he's splitting up a couple of links. That doesn't mean that 1 bunker goes up. But that's a really cool way of dealing with it. But I'm not sure if that was even necessary. Because I feel like in the straight up fight, those links and drones would have done very well by themselves.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just, I guess in his urgency to just like nip it in the bud, he ended up just miscalculating, and it was a little bit of a snowball effect, like a little bit. But now we're going into game number 4, so no 3-0 here. I was a little scared, but going on to Zen for game 4. And maybe INnoVation has finally got a little bit back into Reynor's head. It really felt like Reynor had him defeated with the 3 racks as that last hope to bring you back into the series. But hey, it did. And now INnoVation can try another macro game, I guess.
Or
those weren't really working.
Or do you though? Or do you maybe like the 2 macro games didn't really work out, but my 3 racks, you know, it didn't get scouted by an Overlord, but it's still, you know, like it felt like it wasn't supposed to work, and it still worked. So wouldn't be super shocked if he tries it again. Anyway, so far so good when it comes to the macro department. Anyway, in the right top side of Zen, we're looking at the main base of the Italian Zerg. He's still up 2-1, representing Clash. It is Reynor.
In the bottom left, as the blue Terran, we have INnoVation.
And they stayed at home, Jess. The SCV stayed at home.
Yes, they did. It's I think I like it. I do think that INnoVation was probably also sweating bullets when he realized he was up against a pool first. Like, you can't not be when the lings are already out and your SCVs are very close to not getting that second bunker that actually hit the hatchery. You're just like, oh no, like how do I recover from this one? But it's not gonna risk that again. He's also not gonna risk Reynor trying to get a cheeky quick win. It's gonna go SCV scout, which I really like. I don't think Reynor is the type to do it as you said, but I mean it can happen, and especially on the shorter map.
Yeah.
Map pool.
If there's one map where I could maybe see a couple of roaches run to the other side of the map, you could very well say it's Zen, but I honestly feel that if Reynor and Roach warns, that just doesn't seem to be a very loving relationship, right?
Like, he's gonna scare him.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, showed it to the Overlord, which is trying to look for the 2 racks now, and then shows the bunker, and that is a very appropriate reaction though for a fake.
Oh wow!
No,
Look at all
now
the
it's an
other
overreaction. Oh
no, Reynor, you got jebaited, my friend.
Oh wow! Wow!
If you what? And they stay. This is so much lost mining time.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess this hatchery is gonna finish up, but this is just so awkward now. Jeez, INnoVation with the best 25 minerals that he spent in this entire series.
Absolutely. That was an awesome fake. INnoVation really, truly well in Reynor's head right now. The Reynor, the 3 drones, yeah, it kind of sucked, but it's doable. Oh, pulling all your drones, that was really bad. We saw in the income graph as well how much of a spike INnoVation got in the income. Oh, and he's now going to have, oh no, because the Reaper's actually made in this regard. Ugh, another drone could go down if he's not careful.
Yeah, I felt like there was potential to get a drone there. Now, Reynor's also forced... Wow, is that 8 Zerglings? Jeez, that's so many.
Yeah, that is so many. Well, he's going to try and split them up and maybe force the Reaper to come home, but that's just so many, yeah. He already lost mining time. Now he's built 4 more lings than he would really usually want to have. This is not a fantastic start for Reynor, but if he can clear his head, then I'm sure he could try and recover from this.
And it's also that the drone distribution is a bit weird right now, right? Because he's got so many already in the natural. It's also he's going to have to fix his rally points. These are all like little things that you don't normally think about. This is, it feels like a very bumpy start for Reynor. Like, obviously, we're not going to call game over or something. But I like that you brought up as well. Like, it seems that INnoVation is now getting a little mental advantage after winning that previous game. Like, we don't see INnoVation, but I can only imagine the smirk on his face when he saw that Reynor pulled like 14 drones. There's a Roach Warren, by the way, and there is a Fusion Core. What? Okay.
Ooh.
2 things we haven't seen this series.
No, right, yeah. And 2 things you didn't really anticipate seeing. I mean, INnoVation, absolutely, it was any other Terran, was a battlecruiser player at one point, but that is a beautiful scout because Reynor is usually not the guy to go for the early Roach attack. Now he might decide to still not do it.
I love that. That's like, that's something that's really cool. You can also do it with a single drone if you just put it on a whole position. But now these Hellions are going to actually drive into the natural, and this is what I meant earlier as well. With so many drones being in the natural, I gotta say, that's a really good surround by Reynor. He does end up losing 8 drones, but that could have been worse, and he does clean up the Hellions immediately.
Yeah, at least he cleaned them up quickly, but that was a decent amount lost. And now he has to deal with a battlecruiser that he doesn't know about.
Yeah, and he's not attacking up either, right? And he's building 3 roaches at this point of 29 drones. He's going to attack. This time, actually, Reynor is going to just attack.
Oh, it's so bad, though. It's so bad. I mean, sometimes if the Roach Warren is like, if the attack is well-timed and nothing messes it up, it can kind of get a little complicated. It can get into the natural, and the battlecruiser takes a while to clean it up. But this feels like it's coming in so late, and he still doesn't know about the battlecruiser. He did see a tech lab on the starport, however, so I do really appreciate that he's going back into drones after this. But unlike a Banshee that could pop out and defend back at home, the battlecruiser can defend and then instantly teleport to do some damage.
Okay, these Hellions are going to find one more drone. They want to get more, but I think Reynor should be able to block off. Indeed, kind of block the path there with the roaches. Well done. Do you think that INnoVation might be a bit worried about the amount of roaches he sees, that he doesn't jump the BC to the other side of the map, that he might just fly it to the other side of the map?
No, I think I would say still jump it. Like, the roaches... They're not coming across the map. He has a bunker. Yeah, I definitely see your point. I think INnoVation is a... Oh, no, there he goes. Takes up the Overlord, reveals the battlecruiser, reveals the jump, obviously, but Reynor is still in the middle of the map with the roaches, so...
Reynor has 3 queens, by the way. 3 queens is not even enough. Even 4 queens is going to be very hard. This is an absolutely disastrous game for Reynor. Just everything right off the get-go. Wow. Can we give that SCV that built that bunker in the beginning of the game the Medal of Honor? Because that SCV has just, I really feel like, ruined everything that Reynor had planned in this game.
I agree. This has been so bad for Reynor. I think that it's very much going to be, if INnoVation wins this series, it's very much going to be off the mind games. Reynor had that 3-0 from yesterday working in his advantage for the macro games, I guess. But as soon as that 3 racks actually worked into the drone pool against the fake bunker, that is just, Reynor is so off kilter, and this game is so off for him as well. He was down so many drones, even being even. No, he's actually still down. That's not good against a different player.
I gotta say though, since he's playing against Mac, I'm at least not worried that he dies against like the next push. Like, Mac always takes a little while. I mean, obviously double battlecruiser. There's still a lot of things that can go terribly wrong for Reynor, but if the game just like drags on for a little while longer, then maybe he can claw his way back into it. Right now, it all feels really bad and disastrous, but at least it's not like 25 Marines with +1 and tanks heading to the other side of the map, and he's got no Baneling. That's kind of bad, right? It is double Battlecruiser in his main base, kind of bad, and that Spire is going to be very exposed. How many queens do we have at this point? It's 6 queens, and it's 4 crawlers that could start helping out as well. Is that going to be enough? 2 Yamato cannons go off. So make this 6 queens, make it 4 queens immediately. At least he doesn't end up losing the Spire yet, but that 1 BC is still very healthy.
Yeah, it's going to stick around while its buddy goes back to repair and going to kill all the queens. And the Spore Queller moved, so it can even go after the drones here. There's not much more that Reynor can do except wait for more queens, wait for the Spire to finish. This has been a lot of damage, even if it wasn't direct drone damage.
I gotta say, it's a good job still keeping 60 drones alive. During all of this, Reynor's building 5 more drones. He's gonna end up losing that Overlord and maybe even an additional Overlord, because there just isn't really any anti-air to help out. And that is becoming a problem, because he could technically build a few Corruptors now if he wasn't supply blocked. So he's gonna fire up 3 Overlords immediately. I mean, he kind of weathered the storm though, right? Like, it was ugly, losing all these queens. But I think that's better than losing the Spire and losing 10 drones.
I think so, but it is something we really have to consider. It's certainly not just like, it's not nothing, right? It's the queens are transfuses, the queens are creep spread, which he will absolutely need against the growing number of cyclones, because you're absolutely right about mech, right? It's going to take longer to have like a really deadly killer push with mech than that swift tank follow-up with drops everywhere. But with Cyclone mech, you're kind of in the in-between. Like, you could go out in the map, and you could start pressuring the bases and pressuring the roaches that aren't well upgraded, not a whole lot of Ravagers, all that good stuff. So that's still a little worrying, and Queens can help out against this army we're looking at right now. But, yeah, it's better than losing the drones and losing your Spire, for sure.
If you talk about a shift of momentum, right? Like, after the first 2 games, it really felt that Reynor was just on top of the world. He won 3-0 yesterday. He's up 2-0. He looked fantastic in both games, and it just really felt like this was a Reynor series to lose at that point. Like, it was just like, what could possibly go wrong? And it feels like barely 20 minutes later, it feels everything is going wrong. And you're starting to get really worried for Reynor about the potential Game 5 as well. I don't know what map that would be on. Maybe Everdream or something, right? I guess that's an option. Everdream or Golden Wall. But so far, this looks already very, very difficult to defend. Obviously, we don't have Baneling speed yet. Corruptors are going to show up, though, but you got to be so careful when those Cyclones are there as well. Yamatos land on the Corruptors. Reynor is in serious trouble.
He's trying his best to hold with very few units. It's not enough to feel comfortable, that's for sure. No queens to transfuse, or even to help with those battle cruisers. One already teleports out, and INnoVation still has to be a little bit careful about those Banelings. He got a little close on creep, so even when they're slow, they still got the shots, and maybe this is going to be enough to push this back.
Wow. Gotta say, that's pretty impressive, because it didn't really look like it in the beginning of the fight. He's still up in army. He's way up in upgrades, by the way, like 2 upgrades, more than halfway done for the mech player. That's obviously a phenomenal position for INnoVation to be in. He's going to get 3 more factories on top of the 5 factories he already has. Let's not forget about the 3 battle cruisers that are all still alive. He teleported them home one by one. Reynor is trying to do whatever he can, but this really does feel like INnoVation is just at this point like, oh, cool. I'm going to drive around. I'm going to lock on a couple of things, and I'm going to disengage. And I'm going to make sure that you're even more frustrated about this game than you were about the previous one.
Yeah, it's going to be very frustrating to have to take so many battles that you almost win, and then they just kind of come up and kill you anyways. Because that's probably what's going to happen. INnoVation's not winning here right now, as Reynor got enough Lings, he got enough Corrosive Biles, but eventually everything will collect together. Battle cruisers included once more. Those upgrades will kick in, and it'll eventually just be a loss of units. The Banelings from behind is a really cool idea, but the battle cruisers are going to be able to scout this. So he pulls back. They're not going to do what they were hoping to do, and the Cyclones just simply run away.
This is a really difficult fight off creep for the Zerg player. The Lings and Banes are just getting picked off one by one. Once again, a battle cruiser teleports home. Those Corrosive Balls do not connect either. They look promising for a split second. And without any creep here, Reynor knows that he needs a miracle to get a good fight, right? He needs a wraparound, he needs a Baneling flank. But INnoVation, once again, isn't born last night. He knows the things he has to worry about, and he's avoiding them so far. Finds this hatchery as well. He's got to be a little careful, I think, being on creep. You don't always know where those Lings and Banes come from. But this should be an easy pick-off on that hatchery.
Yeah. Well, we all know that the Cyclones don't benefit from the upgrades. The Hellions actually do against this composition. So 3-3 now on the way, 2 already done. this army is definitely very good. Not as scary as maybe when tanks all siege up, but definitely don't make any mistake. And they're also applying all that pressure, so INnoVation can continue to expand, almost like a Zerg player would. You know, the roles have been reversed, so he can always replace these very powerful units. I love that Reynor keeps trying to get surrounds, because that's absolutely what he has to do, is entirely clean this up, send it back home packing.
Oh, setting up another little Bailing flank coming in from the bottom.
Maybe.
These Bailings, can they finally connect? Eventually, this unit's got to stop running, and yeah, some decent connections. Obviously, this wasn't a cheap fight for Reynor, but hey, if he gets all the Cyclones here, this is definitely the best fight that Reynor has taken in a very long time. Even if it wasn't cheap, and he's still being outmined in this game. INnoVation even taking the base near the rich Vespian geyser, by the way, and he's utilizing that one already. That's always a good feeling if you play mech.
Yeah, for all the Cyclones that went down, that was a lot of gas. That was a lot of income thrown into that attack. But hey, it did hold. That was great. Great use of positioning here from Reynor, but he's going to have enough. He's actually built more Corruptors to try and take on the Battlecruisers, but the Cyclones find the Corruptors too, and all the Corruptors are dead, but maybe the Cyclones die once again.
Well, there's a couple of Hellions stuck into that corner, and these Hellions were absolute MVPs there. They fried so many of the Zerglings, and that will actually allow a couple of these Cyclones to get out as well. INnoVation is playing a beautiful game. Units lost resource step. Reynor has lost 8,000 resources more than INnoVation in a 13-minute game. And that's not because Reynor is getting outplayed. Reynor had a very bad start, and INnoVation is just too good to give away a lead, apparently.
Yeah, it's a very frustrating game. The more that Reynor sees potentials, the more he's going to be frustrated when he finally has to tap out. And there was some potential right there, but imagine if the Battlecruisers had died from earlier stage. I think that's suddenly him being able to go around the map more, obviously take his bases, which just got canceled because of that. And, of course, if he wasn't already so behind, he would have had units probably on the other side of the map, forcing INnoVation to split his attention. Well, this game, INnoVation has been able to pay full attention to this army, take the trades that he wants to.
Whoa.
He's okay with taking maybe some Banelings to the face, as he still wins out the attack.
Can he get the hatchery? He should lock on, right? He should definitely get the hatch here, I feel like, as the last thing. Well, the Battlecruiser shows up. But a lot of corrosive balls are going to try to connect with that Battlecruiser. That's an insane amount of damage immediately. Do we have a couple of corruptors? Yes, we do. Finally, one BC goes down. Reynor got fantastic Bailing connections there on those Hellions. For the first time, he was actually able to take care of the Hellions immediately, and that meant that the Cyclones were a bit vulnerable. But look at INnoVation. He's going up to 99 workers. He's got a lot of problems, yes, but income ain't one of them. 102?
102. He does have basically 3 fresh bases, and he's working on a fourth fresh base. So he's actually using all of his SCVs, which is pretty insane. I guess he's also maybe not muling a whole lot with the scans he's been using, but he also has all these extra bases for either one. Extra orbitals could start coming down as he's once again maxed. Reynor's doing a fantastic job holding in this position, and he was one of the guys that I really looked to when this style was first being played a year ago, actually, for the last Katowice, but it's definitely an uphill battle. He's finally on Hive, which can definitely help some abduct, some blinding clouds, and he did take out one of those Battlecruisers.
I gotta say, this is really cool as well, having the Cyclones there on the left side of Reynor's main. So if the Corruptors would chase, then all of these Cyclones can get their mech build accelerator game on. This hatchery in the right bottom side should definitely go down this time with all these Hellbats, all these Cyclones here. And Reynor's gonna end up losing the hatch and a couple of drones as well. And with a couple, apparently 15, 17 already going down. It's not even done yet. Can the Baning save the day one more time? Well, they connect with a couple of the Cyclones, but I honestly think that this is almost it. We still have Battlecruisers active. INnoVation's income is just off the charge, and Reynor is losing drones everywhere.
That's exactly the problem. INnoVation might be taking some trades that look like they're going in Reynor's favor, but the Remax is so much better for him. I think he lost another Battlecruiser. The reason why Reynor didn't immediately react down to the bottom right was that there was a just enough group of units to the left side as well that he had to try and split against, but being forward to supply down, that split was very difficult to do. But INnoVation did get cleaned up on both sides, lost one more Battlecruiser, so that pop-in threat is getting less and less. But now we're actually replacing Battlecruisers with Liberators. And while, hey, Corruptors are out, that's great. Imagine trying to fly over all these Cyclones onto Liberators with range. That is very difficult to do. Abducts even have trouble actually reaching back there against the lock-ons. And Broodlords, are definitely an option. They might work out. We're going to need just more Broodlords, I would say. And INnoVation, as soon as he scans this, could also start making those very deadly Thors and he would have a pretty prime composition then.
INnoVation is mining like 2,000 resources more a minute than Reynor. That's pretty unheard of in a game like this. INnoVation is taking the base on the left side of Reynor's main. That's disrespectful, okay? You should get a penalty for that. Do we have rules against that, Jess?
Unfortunately, no. I mean, I don't think you can be directly BM, but you can always argue, no, I just needed that base. I really needed it.
Now we do have Infested. Now at this point I kind of hope that like Reynor lands the coolest fungals of all time. So INnoVation like maybe he's taking the other base as well below that. Like Reynor is really trying, or excuse me, Inno's trying to get 2 victories within one game here, right? Like I feel like he's trying to mentally break Reynor almost at this point. He's building 6 more factories. Like that means he's going up to 14 factories. How's that even a thing?
That's not usually seen. I'll tell you that. That's a lot of bases, though. Look at all the extra orbitals he has. Like, at this point, Reynor has to completely demolish the army and then immediately counter to be able to take out all the economy that INnoVation has. Or somehow get into the main. I don't know. But this composition is starting to look good for Reynor. It's also looking very good for INnoVation. The Liberators with range help take out so many of these units, help kind of protect the units, even from the Broodlings, to be honest. And the Infestors starting to go down. The Corruptors starting to go down. Broodlords, mostly what's left over, will be able to push this back, but at such a great cost.
This is like the most insane economy I've seen in a professional game in a very long time. At one point, INnoVation is mining almost 4,000 resources more a minute than Reynor. That is normally your entire economy. You don't mine 4,000 resources more than someone. If you mine 4K a minute, you're doing really well for yourself, right? That's like 4 base saturation. It's ridiculous what Inno's doing over here.
And even as you start to say, oh, maybe Cyclones can't combat the Broodlord numbers, right? Well, here come the Thors. And even INnoVation could have also gone for Vikings. One of those rare games where transferring into Vikings is possible because your economy so outweighs theirs. I mean, this is just, you should be spelling GG with these command centers. Yeah. Like, he's already taken offensive bases. Why not add up?
How many orbitals does he have? He's got 7 orbital commands, 2 command centers, and 5 planetary fortresses. So he's like on 14, and he's building 6 more. INnoVation, you are ridiculous. I mean, Reynor is trying. He wants to land a couple of fungals, and he's doing his best. But obviously, Reynor knows now as well that this one is not going in his favor. GG gets called, and after the first 2 games, it was all Reynor. Now suddenly, it really feels that all momentum is on the side of INnoVation.
I don't know what's worse, man. Either tapping out after the first phase of this game, after you were already so tilted by all the bunker pool and all that.
Yeah.
Is that worse than what we just saw, which is playing a 20-minute game that you were losing for 10 minutes?
Yeah, I hate that so much. And especially if you take like a couple of good fights, you're like, is this like a magical comeback? And then like, if you actually know what's happening on the other side of the map, like, I cannot believe that INnoVation on 102 SCVs would even take the bases on the left side of Reynor's main. Like, that's just too much. It's no regards for Zerg life.
Well, he wasn't even being scouted, so that's when he started to feel very confident. Nothing's even seeing them. That was insane, macro.
So what do you think it's going to be? Everdream or Golden Wall?
Golden Wall, but I cheated. I'm already in game.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. I like that it's Golden Wall. Not that Everdream's a bad map, but I don't know. I've already seen Everdream use it for cheese too often. No, Golden Wall is where we get some really good maps. It's really the breakout star of this map pool. Everyone is like, maybe it's just one of those weird maps. I don't know, man. And then we saw plenty of great games, actually, with the Cyclone mech that INnoVation was using. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of an interesting thing here, is that INnoVation could just be like, you know what? Reynor has a weakness against this. I've really got him on the ropes now, and this style could just be what really burns into his brain, and he's really annoyed by it. But do you do it on Golden Wall? It's really phased out on this map.
I mean, call me crazy, but after the biggest overreaction to a fake proxy in Game 4, wouldn't you just actually proxy in Game 5, Jess? Like, that's what I would do, Be like, even if he sees the bunker go up right now, he won't believe it anyway. If the Overlord wouldn't scout it, there's no way that Reynor would have, like, the same responses he had previously. I wouldn't put it past INnoVation, okay? I mean, like, he's won so many things in life. The man is crazy. I wouldn't be shocked anyway. The good news is that we have another Game 5. All 3 series so far today have gone to distance. I don't see any SCVs leaving yet, so maybe that's a good sign in the bottom right. Maybe I spoke too early. In the bottom right side of Golden Wall, we're looking in the main base of Clash. Reynor.
Yay!
Yay. Oh my goodness.
Oh, he's doing it in the bottom left. That's the red tear, and we do have INnoVation going for the proxy rocks. He's so in Reynor's head. He thinks he can actually do it here. Reynor, you've got to be on top of this.
You know, before this Liquipedia, I do want to say that, like, I don't think this really applies anymore because Reynor has been a tournament champ and he has been successful. But before Reynor won his first tournaments, he had a couple of very big chokes on the big stage, right? I will never forget that series he had against Maru in the GSL. He was up 1-0 and he completely shut down the proxies on Acid Plant, and then he threw it. And there were two more very famous series. He was up once against Neep 2-0, winning game 3, I think at WESG. He lost that. This time, though, he does scout it, and he scouts it early.
Okay. Well, so this is really nice for Reynor. Make no mistake. He can actually take care of this with the drone pool. It's really far away, though, so we have to keep in mind that he is losing mining time. Because the other important thing is that INnoVation's not 3-raxing, he's 2-raxing. There is a bit of a follow-up here. If he could just get one of these barracks, he could at least try to make a Reaper and continue the game. He does get one, but the second one is actually going to be... I think it's a goner, right? Like, you got to get the cancel.
Yeah. I think that at this point, INnoVation just wants to make Reynor believe that maybe he should pull even more drones towards this point.
All right.
And it's like, yeah, no, I'm definitely going to try to save that barracks. And obviously, we can see there's not another barracks being built somewhere. This is not something that Reynor could have been 100% sure of. But I think at this point, Reynor is going to put 2 and 2 together. I mean, this is a fantastic start by Reynor, and you got to give him kudos for that scout, right? Like, oh, he does end up losing a single drone, but it's still got to feel really good if you're the Italian.
I think so, yeah. I mean, it's nice for INnoVation that he was only 2-raxing again, so he can try and play off of this. And I even love that Reynor sent a drone out to see if there's a third rax. This one was just kind of the byproduct of how those Marines are chasing, but he even goes for a scout with this one, sees the command center, and has a better idea of what's going on. But this was really nice handling. Maybe he can also save this drone, and then behind this, Reynor was able to get... he has the flexibility to go for more drones, and he needs to deal with the Reaper just like a normal game.
I can't believe did actually do it in game 5. I was like, after the big overreaction in game 4, if he doesn't find the barracks, he will never take it serious. I do think it's a sick call. It just unfortunately didn't really work out for Inno. Does almost get a drone there, but he has to be super careful that he doesn't end up losing his Reaper. Because obviously his barracks is flying home at this point. Now, do you think that he goes mech from here, or do you think that we'll actually just see bio? I feel like this is a bit more of a bio map though, right? Whoa, that drone. No.
Nope. I love that we have both of our both the points we made are actually coming into fruition. We did see 2-rax, and then we are going to talk about mech versus bio, which I'm very glad to see, because that's what I was trying to bring up, was that when this was first run into the map pool, we had a lot of Terrans actually try Cyclone mech here because they kind of saw an opportunity to hit the back with the mineral patches being mined out. But then it really quickly phased out. It's such a gigantic map, and honestly, the attack on the bottom side that you can do doesn't hit the Zerg enough, right? So going for bio makes a lot more sense. Reynor perhaps going to go ahead and go for a 2-base layer Spire. Can try and control the game here, which is also popular on Golden Wall. But because we're kind of offset, this game started off very weird. I wonder how this is going to work against INnoVation's Fusion Core.
Yeah, me too. But it's cool to see him go at least for a very quick layer. Dolls actually denied a Reaper from hopping into the main base as well. That's pretty damn awesome. Because at this point, if you're INnoVation, you're not even 100% sure, has he maybe mined out the gold? Or actually the back minerals in? Is he trying to squeeze the drone to the low ground? Is he actually a 2-base Zerg? Was he afraid to go up to 3 bases already? So obviously very nice there by Reynor to prevent that Reaper from getting into the main base. Now Reynor's Overlord is getting very close to things that it would love to see. It spots the starport, it sees the tech lab, does not see that third CC yet, and I think that's something he would have loved to confirm.
Yeah, you're right about that. He wants to actually see this 100%. Same as INnoVation wants to 100% see the Spire, but I think they have enough clues to kind of figure this out. INnoVation is set up a lot like last game with the tech lab not spinning, to say that it's maybe Fusion Core and probably third CC if that is the case. And then for INnoVation, he didn't get into the main base, but he saw a late third and he saw that third gas or second or whatever. But the point is more than one gas, right? So I think there's enough information. Reynor's going to get that second scout, though, that confirmation scout, putting him a bit more in the driver's seat. He can make the decisions, I think, more confidently than anything INnoVation does. And INnoVation, well, he could be teleporting his battlecruiser into corruptors that are being made. And that could be very, very dangerous.
Do you think Reynor always opens Corrupted here, or do you think there is a chance that maybe he feels like Queen Muna is going to be good enough?
I think the Queen Muta might be good enough. Like, you might actually be able to take him out, or at least push it back, right? And then immediately counterattack with the Mutas, which you can't immediately really counterattack with Corruptors. So, yeah. I think I would like to see it, but it might be a bit too dangerous of a play to go for it, when you can actually just shut this down.
That is so aggressive, by the way, of this Battlecruiser. Just gets on top of these 4 Queens immediately. There's quite a bit of energy on these Queens, though. So the Hellions, they really need to make the difference here. Another Queen shows up in the main base. And I think this BC is at this point in trouble. The Hellions are trying to get a favorable fight against the Zerglings, but that's not really happening either. Beautiful defense by Reynor, and Reynor immediately fires up 8 Mutalisks.
Not too much of a surprise to see Reynor with fantastic lane control, just making sure that they couldn't enter, they couldn't get any farther into the base, but not actually chasing after them, so they all get barbecued. And there are the Mutas, which, yeah, we were talking about it, probably just the best call, because now you can immediately counter.
Those mines,
really
though,
smart.
That's really cool. INnoVation, that is such a cool play. Gets 2 Mutalisks immediately. This Battlecruiser is going to go down, though. And that is obviously very nice, because we saw how long they were alive. I'd love to see him turn around with his Mutas and get those Widow Mines, no?
Yeah, I agree. I don't want him to lose track of them.
Oh my goodness. What?
And then lose 2 more because one was weak. That's... he needs to just clear out the Widow Mines. Just take the freebies. There you go.
Well, they might actually fire at this point. No, okay. I guess he barely has enough. That should have been so much better for Reynor. I mean, the Mutas have been out for like a minute and just lost 5 Mutalisks already. Sick plays by INnoVation, though, setting up the trap there, knowing that the Mutas would chase. But I think afterwards, Reynor should have just chilled for a split second and not dive into the main base.
That was a little bit too eager, you know? Like, I understand. You're like, oh, I got away with the Spire. I just slapped that down. But with the Widow Mines popping off like they did, that was just a little bit too much. Really good of INnoVation, too, by the way, to go for those Widow Mines. He did save himself a lot of headache. It's not like he was going to die. You know, Missile Turrets were finishing, but he would have lost STVs trying to repair those and, you know, get them finished.
That was really cool. Really, really good play by I love it. I mean, he had so little vision, he sees everything, but he just knew how this was going to play out. Reynor has to be a bit careful at this point. I feel like Reynor has been supply blocked at like 98, 106 quite a few times so far in this series. Does find a couple STVs here, so that's nice, but he will once again end up losing a couple of Mutas to the lock-ons this time. Not just one.
Yeah, still very scary. It's a nice response. The nice thing about at least this game is that this started off a bit weird and we were really accelerated towards those Mutas, is that you don't have to worry so much about a big ground attack, right? So you can just focus on dealing with the Mutas, which have already been cut down to size. And he got his 3rd CC about as fast as you really can. And again, sometimes that is delayed by a Muta player. But Reynor also gets a lot of time here. I mean, look at the creep spread, look at his 4th base. He could probably even take a 5th before he really has to worry about INnoVation pushing out, because INnoVation can't really just go into last game's Cyclone mech. He has to build those Thors, which are going to slow him down.
There is a mine on the south side of that refinery. I'm so surprised to see Reynor doing this without bringing Overseer, by the way. Now, he didn't fly into any mines this time, but I just really feel like he should be bringing in Overseer at this point, because he knows he's going up against mech. He knows there were quite a few mines produced already early on, and there was no reason for Inno to not build any additional mines, because they did so well in the first place. So I'm a bit surprised by that.
Yeah, you don't usually see him more so afterwards, but yeah, it might have been an option. I would really like to see Reynor take the down the bottom side of the map, because this was... I talked about how mech has really fallen off from this map. It turns out this map is so large that, like, even if you have that one good mech push, right, that's kind of what mech does, it still is so much of, like, whack-a-mole. I got your hatchery. Oh, you still have 2 on the south side. So I'd love to see him do that, or at least open up the possibility, but he's not minding on his back at all.
I'm actually very worried, man. Like, Reynor's army doesn't look very good. He just made 9 more drones. Obviously, these Hellions can morph into Hellbats. There is a Thor, 2 Thors, and a Battlecruiser in the mix. There is just so much HP on the army of INnoVation, while I feel Reynor's army is very fragile. He does make 23 Banelings, so obviously if Banelings connect, it could be good, but I don't really like where this is going for Reynor.
It's scary. Oh, nice one of mine. It's very scary because, yeah, INnoVation's not really supposed to do what he just did, so we saw Reynor go, oh no, let's stop making drones, but there's also a reason INnoVation isn't really usually going to push with that army, right? Like, mech is so... It has to be so together. You know, it doesn't do well with 16 units like a 16 Marine drop would do. So that was a nice little push out there. It cleaned up creep. It got Reynor to kind of panic, the heart palpitations, and then he just pulls back. I think that's actually still the better idea, just because Banelings, well, yeah, they can absolutely look terrible, they also, as we know, can look fantastic on creep. So INnoVation will overstep. He does overstep with these Hellions, though. They're a little too far forward away from the anti-air. I can't believe that Reynor is still continuing to upgrade the way he is, though. Like, he is...
Yeah.
I guess going into
like
the Brood Lords.
roaches. He just doesn't like roaches. Like, that's just a Reynor thing. We know that he doesn't like roaches. He's going to try to make the magic happen with the Mutas, but it feels like a risky response, right? Because you know you're 1 or 2 bad mouse clicks away from just your entire army being useless at that point. You know what I would really love, and I don't see very often a Golden Wall, is like Reynor, for instance, right now to take the Extractor on the right side of INnoVation's main and then try to mine out his backdoor. So with all the links and veins, we can maybe sneak in a couple of them in the main. I think that'd be really cool. Obviously, it's hard to pull off, but it's a risk of 2 drones, so I feel like it's worth a try.
Yeah, I really wish he would play around with more with the south side of the map for sure, but just thinking about getting control over the north side right now. He's thinking, I need to get more creep spread, I need to get even more economy pumping here, pumping these units out, and I need to get my upgrades too, because that is something that INnoVation has over him, and they both are maxed out. Reynor is pushing to the top side with a bunch... Okay, he's gonna get that planetary. It's gone. That's too many Van things.
Could have maybe gotten a few more SCVs there, but still pretty good. At the same time, on creep, his veins are getting so close to all the Hellions, and they do get a couple of very good connections in the end. That doesn't mean that he should chase off creep, and that's what he doesn't do either. And this is all before his 2-2 upgrades kick in as well. So that seems like a pretty good... Oh, the Mutas, what? Okay,
oh, I guess he was controlling his right army more than his Mutas. That's a little bit awkward there.
He has a lot of banings, but does he have enough to really fight these Thors? I feel like there is still so much HP. It just looks like such a beefy army from INnoVation. He's got the Thors, he's got the Battlecruiser, and it feels that Reynor's army is like banelings, and is that enough? That's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, I'm really scared because the Thors absolutely have the possibility of like soaking up like 20 banelings. Like Cyclones and Hellions might die to them when surrounded, but the Thors can just be like the walls, the Archons of the Terran army. But Reynor just needs to buy more time. I'm really surprised to see him go for an Ultralisk Cavern. Like, this does absolutely feel like the riskier way to play against the mech. It is a way. It's not like he's playing bad or he's dumb. He's obviously not. But it feels so risky.
23 Mutalisks have gone down in this game already. That's obviously very expensive. I do like what he's doing with the Mutas now, even though he might end up losing a couple. I understand that he's buying time for himself. He's like, get off my lawn. Because with Lings and Banes, like eventually you're just going to lose that fight against those Blue Flame Hellions, Hellbats, Cyclones, and the Thors. So he's buying some time. I do think, by the way, like you said it already a couple of times, at this point, Reynor should really mine out those minerals in his main and open up the way to the bottom side of the map. Because there is a good chance he loses a hatchery or 2 on the right top side. But hey, if he starts taking the bases at the bottom, then he can still like run around for a while and eventually get a good fight, maybe with the Ultras and Lings and Banes. But he should really start doing that like ASAP.
And if his style is about keeping INnoVation on the back foot, then just more opportunities for run buys and more opportunities to buy time is always better. But so focused on the defense now with Ultras, but Chitinous Blending not quite done. Also, nothing to kill this Battlecruiser, as the Mutas are off gallivanting and no Queens are here. It always looks a bit awkward. Reynor's actually going to go for a big run buy, which will get into the main and natural, and these are pretty well upgraded.
Yep, that's very nice actually. These links can be super annoying. INnoVation is going to lose quite a few SCVs, a lot of them very quickly. Jeez Louise, 25 SCVs have gone down, and this fight still hasn't even really started. But does Reynor have enough to actually win the fight against this mech army? We're about to find out.
The Banelings crash in. They're going to be off creep from now on, however. The Thors are taken out by the Ultras, which are still alive. 2 of them very, very healthy, and it looks like Reynor will be able to push this back long enough to at least get reinforcements. Wow. That's
massive,
insane.
Though. That is massive, considering the fact that he just dealt a hefty blow to the economy of INnoVation. That base on the left top side has like no workers at all. We still have that Spire, of course. We can also get a couple of Corruptors to finally deal with that BC. But whew, what a hold by Reynor. That is a super impressive hold. INnoVation scans the bottom side of the map. And he's like, what? You don't even have those bases? Man, you're rich. So he's now picking up on the fact that Reynor probably has the gold. Inno's army is a bit bigger, but Reynor should be able to squeeze out enough units. And I love those Infestors, by the way. I feel like we're 2 Fungals away from like 10 Cyclones dying.
Yeah. They can be very, very helpful. Soaking us around, exactly what Reynor's trying to set up for. Baneling's nearly connecting to those Cyclones, but if the Cyclones don't get dealt with, the Ultras will be burned down by the lock-ons. Battlecruiser finally dies, and Reynor actually is going to continue with this push, despite all the lock-ons available and his Ultra starting to go down. There he goes. He pulls back. It's always scary. I guess it's also scary to pull back from Cyclones. But he needs more units here.
He's putting up a couple of Banelings there. The Banelings are going to try to crash in, and they get actually pretty good connections. Well done. A couple Cyclones do go down. 9 Widow Mines at a time at this point being produced by INnoVation. But INnoVation's economy is in shambles. That Ling run by, that felt like, it's like, okay, can this get something done? You can run into a mine, you can run into Blue Flame Hellions. Well, that Ling run by was fantastic. Because if INnoVation was at like 73 SCVs right now, it'd be like, oof, this is really tough, right? But the fact that he's only at 43 really makes you feel very good about the chances of Reynor in this game.
His army will take some decent trades, though, especially if these Widow Mines actually do their thing. And maybe they'll also stop these run-bys as well.
Though. Oh, I can already see it. The Infestor Fungal from the high ground. Oh, INnoVation has to get out of there. Yeah. That's a big run-by, by the way, once again into the main base. But there aren't that many SCVs to kill. You've killed them all, Reynor. They're done.
Yeah. Any that were built, again, are off the top left anyways. But if you don't take care of this, then suddenly your production goes down because those are fully upgraded links. So you cannot leave them alone or depend on reinforcements necessarily.
There are Overseer. Reynor still doesn't have an Overseer, right? He's got no Overseer.
You would never really expect such a strong transition into drilling claws as well. So he's building one now, but that can be easily popped off by the Cyclones. Well, he sees both armies. He's getting ready to deal with the Collapse, and Reynor goes for it. He pulls the trigger. Widow Mines get a pretty good shot on a couple Banelings. The rest of the shots going on the Corruptors, maybe some Ultras. Where are the Fungals? Catches 2 units. So this seems like Reynor's going to be able to push this back. Does he retreat is always the question, and he will retreat. That's a couple more lock-ons for INnoVation to get.
As long as Reynor takes care of all of those mines, I think that was okay. I mean, he's still a bit down in army supply, but he's got a couple of Ultras to fall back on. It is hard, though, without creep, right? INnoVation obviously has micro potential. Banelings come in from the top side, and they get a couple of really good connections on those Cyclones. There is a Widow Mine to fall back on here. There's still a lot of Banes, but they just can't connect. INnoVation is getting great trades. I mean, he's working with a bad economy, but he's getting good trades. But the Fungal is something that even INnoVation can't avoid. And he ends up losing a couple of Cyclones. And once again, with the economy that Inno has, it really feels that losing a Cyclone is even a big deal at this point.
Yeah. I mean, he started to rebuild SCVs, stopped for a little while. Now he's starting again. He does still have 2 bases that are pretty healthy, but I mean, maybe he can take the bottom left, as in like lift his command center. It's kind of what he's down to is hoping that he can do that. Whereas Reynor also has bases he's very healthily mining from. It has to be a better trade here for INnoVation, better than what he's been getting.
Okay, I love these Hellions on the top side of the map because there is no spine crawler here. There are quite a few drones, so INnoVation is getting some decent damage done. 6 drones go down immediately. I feel like Inno can just float over his orbital, no? Why doesn't he just float over the orbital of the main base or the natural towards the goal? Oh my god, what is this, by the way?
Oh, he got Burrow. I thought he was going to go for Burrowed Banelings, actually, but Burrowed Infestors for the pop-up on the backside of the Cyclones.
Yeah, but they're surrounded by Widow Mines. Imagine if a scan goes down. This is insane. Oh my goodness, Reynor with the flank. He's going to land Fungals, but he also loses the Infestors to the Widow Mine. That is just insane. What a cool exchange there between these two.
Reynor underestimating how many Widow Mines can be out here on the map, man. Like, he really needs to clean these up as we have more being produced. They're also one of the cheaper and the fastest producing unit that INnoVation can really get for bang for buck here.
Not a single spine crawler here or anything to really keep this base safe. Macfield Accelerator getting... Oh my goodness, doesn't get the final shot in the Hellions. Try to get the hatchery, and the Hellions do get the hatchery in the end. And INnoVation did float over, by the way, his main base towards the goal. Burrowed Banelings are not going to get the job done. I think Inno is starting to turn this around, yes.
Yeah, well, his economy got back up and running. He did finally lift that main base over to the gold, and Reynor never... I feel like he's still in that composition that can absolutely die to what INnoVation has. Like, as far as the actual battles go, I anticipate INnoVation doing a bit better as long as he never got surrounded, which he just has barely been able to avoid. And Reynor was the one that needed to get that bigger, much bigger economy. Finally, he mines out his back base and has that other hatchery, but he needs a really convincing fight to feel confident again in this game.
The Infestors are getting in a really cool spot, but there's a Widow Mine in the mix here as well. You gotta be so careful. Reynor's scan goes down. That means he ends up losing the Infestor. He does land a Fungal, but I really don't know if that Fungal is gonna make the difference because it's already worn off. and it's just Banelings and Ultras, and Reynor is down in supply quite a bit for the first time in a very long time, and he doesn't even have that economic advantage anymore. Reynor has lost 15,000 resources more than INnoVation did in this game.
You know, when he first started bringing up the economy, I looked at it and it was like 6,000, 7,000 difference. That was maybe 4 minutes ago. So it's really, really grown. The transfuses are coming in for the Ultras, but I just always feel like Reynor is on such a awkward composition. He never tried adding in some Vipers or even going to Broodlords, which was a tough thing to do, as much aggression as INnoVations were bringing to him. And these Widow Mines apparently were the absolutely right call. They've been giving Reynor such a headache.
Wow, INnoVation putting on a clinic here. It really felt that he was in all the trouble in this game. He lost so many SCVs. It felt that his army was going to run out of steam. But the casual 16-minute, 9 Widow Mine at a time transition really got the job done. Insane. I cannot believe that Inno turned this around. That's so impressive.
I really wish that Reynor had gone into Broodlords at any time. Like, I know he's been attacked, but I feel like, you know, he's already given up that top right base. In the last 2 minutes, he could have gotten this Greater Spire. And even a handful of Broodlords might have helped against the Widow Mine specifically, right? As long as you're protecting them and not letting them get locked on. But I think it might be too late. He is trying to take the bottom left bases, something that INnoVation has not been able to deal with yet, as well as trying to get more run-bys underway. But now INnoVation is pushing into his production, his rally, and that's very scary.
Lings are going to try to run into the gold, but they have to go through all these mines and the Hellions, so the majority of the Lings already got picked off. There are so many Widow Mines in the center of this game. INnoVation is at 18 Widow Mines at this point. It really felt that the Burrow Infested, that was supposed to be the cool play, but Reynor had no idea about these mines, and every single time that these Infestors on Burrow, they go down immediately to the Widow Mines, and Inno is also doing a fantastic job at just staying at the edge of creep over and over again, but he never made the mistake of losing all of his Cyclones and all of his Hellions.
He even aggressively plants the Widow Mines down. The last few Banelings are going to try and get some connections, but we're down to Queens and Ultras, which Cyclones will easily lock on and tear down. The Broodlords will never make it into this game with only one Corruptor on the way. Reynor had the economy to try and continue playing this style, but when it started to lose out, when he lost his economy, it really started to show its weakness. And now he's about to have his last fight for game number 5. This is going to be it. INnoVation is going to advance forward. Reynor is not going to win this tournament as his last Ultras get taken out here alongside his Queens. INnoVation is just too damn good.
I love that. INnoVation is just too damn good at this video game. Reynor has had a remarkable run in the lower bracket, and INnoVation was on his almost last life is what it felt like, but GFG gets called. And INnoVation is the one moving forward to the next round of TSL 5 after being in a lot of trouble in Game 5, after being in a lot of trouble in the entire series. Who in his right mind would have ever predicted that Inno was going to win this after the first 2 games, right? Reynor looked on fire. Reynor looked untouchable. He looked confident as ever. And things just changed, man. Like that 2 even in the beginning of Game 3, I felt like, okay, this is over. This is a 3-0. And I feel like we've seen this a couple of times before in Reynor's career, but I think all focus should be on INnoVation, and especially the way that Inno played that Game 5. What a sick performance by that Korean Terran who just doesn't seem to stop impressing us. Just 10 years into this game, Inno will still impress us.
Yeah, he's been playing for like 9 of it. That's a long time to be as dominant as he's been. INnoVation continues to prove that he can adapt. He can take back the mental edge, and he can change up his style against the unorthodox play of Reynor, who unfortunately is now out of this tournament.
We stand as one. Are you gonna give me orders?